All right, guys, welcome to episode 3 of Heart of the Order. We're back. We're going to start giving you guys our division breakdowns. Today, we're going to do the two East divisions. NL East, home of the World Series champions Washington Nationals, and then the AL East, which is always pretty exciting with the Red Sox, the Yankees, and so on and so forth. But first, there was a couple teams going dancing last night in the NCAA tournament. Dre was at Robert Morris University last night. His alma mater. Dre, what was it like to see your alma mater get their bid to the NCAA tournament, man?
It was magical, to say the least, just because of the fact that, with Robert Morris, they only get one shot. And, Merrimack out of nowhere this year,
Mm-hmm.
brand new to the conference, brand new to D1, uh, card, deck stacked against them. They just absolutely dominated the conference. So, and because they won the conference, bid got taken away from the NIT. So it was either dancing or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And wire to wire last night, it was just incredible. The atmosphere was electric. Shout out to the students because the first two games was not good in terms of the atmosphere, and they showed up. A lot of people showed up, and the place was packed. It was awesome. It was a perfect night. The team looked really good. They're ready. They're ready. I don't know what they're going to do. Let's just hope that they don't get Kansas.
That new arena is pretty nice too, isn't it?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I put up my shirt earlier, packed
Yeah.
the Chuck. The old Charles L. Soul Center was it was worse than a high school gymnasium. Two wooden bleachers on both sides.
Yeah.
Now it looks legit. There's actual seats. It's a beautiful court. So and the students got to storm it last night, and that was nice. That was nice.
That's awesome.
It's nothing like March Madness. I mean, that will be beginning, but March baseball, it's getting going. Spring training's in full swing now. Got the coronavirus bouncing around, but baseball is still going on, which is wild. Like, before we get into the breakdowns, I need to get your guys' opinion. We didn't talk about this in the pre-show, but like the media getting basically barred from the locker rooms and things like this. What's your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, this is pretty wild. It's unprecedented. Something we've never seen before.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Brooks. I'm sorry.
I mean, I just think like the whole thing. I mean, I'm more one that's like, okay, sure, like take those precautions if you need to, but to me, it like sets up this like crazy precedent.
Yeah.
And like, is that going to apply like across the board? Because if we're saying, oh, let's not let media near the players, then like, what are we doing? Playing the games in the stadiums? Like, I definitely think that we should still be doing that, but it's also like.
It's like, yeah, we don't want 15 guys maybe at most around our players, but we'll let like 10,000, 20,000 people come into the stadiums on a daily basis and back the stadiums and be on top of each other. Like, that's the thing I don't understand is you're going to let the stadium still get packed, but you don't want 15, 20 media members near players for 5 minutes.
Well, they're just trying not to spread it, and I get that.
Yeah. I get that.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'd assume that eventually, some baseball games are going to be played in open stadiums.
Yep. Mm-hmm. No,
so
I agree.
I feel like that's the route that's going to be going.
I mean, there was I was scrolling through Instagram this morning. There was I think it was a Premier League. One of the first Premier League games was played in an empty stadium this morning, and it was like they kind of just spanned around the stadium, and it was pretty weird to see, like, no fans, but the national anthem's still playing, the refs still got their mics on the face and stuff like that. It was kind of weird to see. So it should be interesting to see kind of how it spans out as this continues to go. But I think this is the first step, I guess. I mean, I don't think it's anywhere near over yet.
Yeah, I think Baltimore may have had an empty stadium for a game. I think it was like 5 years ago. Do you guys recall that?
I actually do. I actually do recall that because Machado was still on the team. They were going for the playoffs. It was an odd situation. I can't remember why off the top of my head, but yeah,
the city was shut down. There was an incident that happened.
Yeah, wasn't there like a I don't want to say it was like a bombing threat or something like that, but I thought it was something like I can't remember.
I can't either. All I know is that this year they'll probably have an empty stadium again.
Hmm.
But that's just because they stink.
Are they as bad as the Pirates? Are they? Come on, like
They're actually probably worse, but they're in terms of their future, they're probably in better shape. I mean, when
Yeah.
you draft Adley Rutschman, you're good to go.
Yeah, it should be interesting. All right. Well, speaking of the Orioles, we can get into our division breakdowns, but actually, let's start. I mean, it's only right we start in the NL East, right? Because the Washington Nationals, World Series champions, that was crazy. They kind of came out of left field last year, guys, and kind of stormed through the playoffs, captured a World Series championship. They lost Rendon in the offseason to the Angels. I mean, let's just start right there. I mean, they were 93 and 69 last year. They finished second in the East behind the Braves. I mean, what's your kind of your outlook for them this year? I mean, do they have a legitimate shot to repeat?
I don't think they have a shot to repeat, but I do believe they have a shot to still make some noise. And I only say that because that pitching rotation is still stacked. When you throw out Scherzer, Corbin, Strasburg, who just got signed a new contract,
Yeah.
good luck in a 3-game series.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, those 3 guys are still horses, although Scherzer's starting to get a little up there in age. But yeah, when it comes to them, I mean, they have their identity. They know what they're built around, and they have a stud on the offensive side in Juan Soto, and he's only going to get better. He's only 21 years old. So, he's only going to get better too.
Brooksy, do you think they got better without Bryce Harper last year? I mean, last year was the first year where he wasn't there. They go out and they win a World Series, something that Harper was striving to do while he was there. I mean, do you think they got better without him there?
It helps when you can plug in Juan Soto, I'm sure, right behind him. Yeah, I mean, I think it was like just one of the things where, I mean, they were that good for so long, and they had like such that nucleus of talent that losing somebody like Harper just so happened to have a replacement in Soto. It just didn't have the same effect. But like Dre, like their pitching staff is solid. It's just a matter of if they can replace like Rendon's production, and they were like in the dumps at like the end of May, and then they just got hot for the rest of the season. So like I don't know if they could be able to recover from those depths if they happen to drop there, but definitely a team to look out for.
I mean, looking at the roster, they're very young. Their nucleus is Trey Turner, Juan Soto, but already know about Juan Soto. He's a stud. And Victor Robles, who came in last year's center, he was a guy that helped replace Bryce Harper in the outfield. But they're plugging in Carter Kaboom this year. He was one of their top prospects. He got brought up last year. Started off hot, kind of tailed off to the point where he actually got sent back down. But yeah, I can definitely see the outlook of them. I can see them making some noise in this division, but this division's so deep that it's going to be tough for them to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to Trey Turner is one of the guys that has kind of always caught my eye. He's their starting shortstop. He's kind of he can steal a lot of bases. He plays solid defense. He's a contact hitter, but he kind of always seems to get hurt on and off kind of throughout the year. If he's one guy that can stay consistent, stay healthy, I think that takes him to another level. But I just don't know. I mean, they were just one of those teams that got so hot last year, and they won games and big moments and things like that. And I mean, when you kind of are able to stitch all those things together, it only ends up in a World Series title. I mean, it's just kind of one of those teams that they got hot. But I mean, like you said, the pitching staff, what they have around it, I think it kind of adds all together. But I mean, that division is tough. Kind of what is around it. I mean, they still have the Braves there. The Mets and their pitching staff is something that's going to be fun to watch this year. I mean, we can get into the Mets real quick actually, and then we'll finish off the NL East with the Braves. But the Mets, I mean, Dre, we talked about this. I can't remember how many times last year and just how dominant this pitching staff is. I mean, you love the Mets. They got the polar bear and Pete Alonso. I mean, what's your kind of your outlook? I know you love the Mets, man.
I do want to say this one more thing about the Nats. Shout out old co-host Greg Malik. He did the Nats.
He was right. Yep.
On the Nats in May, and as he was on the Nats in May, I hopped off the wagon of the Mets. I was bullish on the Mets last year. I thought Big Pete, Polar Bear Alonso, when he burst on the scene, I was excited. I was shocked they didn't send him down, but that's what big market teams do. If you're good enough to win that job, you'll win that job. He won that first base job, and man, oh man, he ran away with it. Offensively, he put up, I believe, it was 50-some homers. The Mets this year, I think, if not now, and I said this last year, but if not now, then never for them in the division. It's just they somehow found themselves last year. Not just Big Pete, they got J.D. Davis, Michael Conforto, who stepped up. You're talking about them having the Cy Young pitcher and back-to-back Cy Young pitcher actually, and Jake DeGrom. As I said previously in another episode, he's a guy can't lose. I don't expect him to go anywhere. The guy they really, really got to count on this year, actually, there's two. Noah Syndergaard, you got to take a step up, and Edwin Diaz, because Edwin Diaz, they acquired him last year, was not good at all. Could not close the door for them, and it cost them a lot of games, and that really sucks because it probably could have swung 9 games, and they probably would have made the playoffs at that point, at least a wild card. So those two guys really got to step up this year.
I mean, Brooksy, this team is I feel like they always just find a way to shoot themselves in the foot somehow, some way.
That's just Mets.
I mean, it just always happens. But when you have, I mean, is this pitching staff enough for them? I mean, they have Jake DeGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Marcus Stroman. They still have Zach Wheeler there, right? Zach Wheeler's still there.
Yeah, Wheeler's in
Philly. Sorry. But I mean, with those three guys at the front of the rotation, I mean, that's got to be one of the best rotations in baseball right there. Just those two guys alone.
I mean, it says something that like Steven Matz, who like may not even like make their rotation. Like I think they may have added Waka as a potential starter, but then on like the back end they added Benintendi from New York. So, like, if health doesn't slow him down, like, hopefully the Mets wasted all their bullets shooting themselves in the foot on their managerial hiring of Carlos Beltran. But, I think, like, I mean, I was a Mets believer last year, just, like, looking down their lineup. Like, there was so much potential here. But just, like, competing alongside the defending champions, the Braves, the Phillies, who I put on the same tier as the Mets.
Yeah.
You just don't see the Mets coming on top of that.
It's just when you add in the factor that of them always shooting themselves in the foot, it just kind of makes it difficult. But and they added Porcello in the offseason too. So Porcello's another guy who will kind of add to that starting rotation. So I mean, it goes from DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman. Stroman could be an ace on most teams in the MLB, and he's a third pitcher. He's a number 3 on the Mets, which is it's crazy to see. And then you have Rick Porcello, number 4, and then Steven Matz, number 5. And then I mean, this bullpen, like on paper, this bullpen looks good with Seth Lugo, Justin Wilson, Benintendi, and then Uris Familia, and then Edwin Diaz closing it out. Like I feel like we talked about this last year. This team just looks so good on paper, but it's like when you put them in action, it's like they just fall apart.
Yeah, and that's vintage Mets. It's unexplainable, but they also, another key piece outside, we talk about the free agent additions that they're adding, and Stroman via trade, adding Stroman, Porcello, Betances. One guy that they do add as well due to injury is Yoenis Cespedes.
Yeah.
And adding him behind or in front of wherever they decide to bat him, Big Pete, I'm very, very curious to see how he comes back because he didn't play at all last year. In the previous year, 2 years ago, he was also injured often. It was extremely tough for him to stay on the field. This year, he's coming back, and he's 100% healthy, and they're inserting him in the outfield. I believe he is in a contract year. I'm not 100% certain.
Didn't he get hurt like wrestling a boar or something like that, or like chasing a boar? Like, isn't there some like crazy story about how he got hurt?
Yeah, it was like something with like an ATV, but I think he was like doing something like chasing a boar, something just completely weird.
Again, vintage Mets. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? I mean, but from top to bottom, guys, this division is just stacked. I mean, it's one of the, I feel like it's one of the tougher divisions in the MLB, and you go from the Mets and the Mets and the Nationals to the top team that won the division last year in the Atlanta Braves. I mean, I feel like this is a younger team that's kind of an up and coming team. Last year they kind of said we're here to play. With guys like uh, Ozzy Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. and Dansby Swanson at short. They brought in Marcell Ozuna this offseason. They got Mark Melancon in the back end to close. I mean, what do you kind of think of these guys? Is this a year where they can repeat as NL East division champs?
Yeah, I don't know if they definitely like addressed a ton. Like their outfield is just
Yeah.
a log jam of talent. But they lost Keuchel. They
Yeah.
added Hamels. They still have Soroka, who's like a great young arm.
Mm-hmm.
But just looking over the course of the year, is that an arm that can lead them all the way to that? And I don't see, like, when I'm looking at the teams who are the top tier contenders, I don't see the Braves pitching staff matching up with that. Like, there's just no names here. I mean, they did add a lot of relievers that intrigue me, but just looking at, I mean, they have Soroka, they have Hamels, they have Fultinuich, Max Fried, just no names that jump
Yeah.
off in the same way as the rest of the division do.
Yeah, I think they're one of those teams where they're probably going to be carried by their lineup more than their pitching staff. Which, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Brewers a little bit, where they have the offense to kind of supplement, but they have one or two guys that can kind of carry a game on the mound, night in, night out, but isn't enough to kind of carry them throughout the course of the season. I mean, it should be interesting. I mean, I feel like they kind of came out of left field last year and kind of surprised a lot of people. But I mean, when you have guys like Freddie Freeman and Ozzy Albies and Marcell Ozuna and Acuna, who's supposedly, from what the rumors are throughout the course of the spring training and things like that, supposedly he's set to have like a huge year. So it should be interesting to see. Dre, what do you think about these guys?
Well, if Fulte goes out late and puts up a game like he did against the Cardinals, they're screwed because he let up 10 runs in the first inning. I'll actually never forget that last game they played. You're only as good as your last game.
Yeah.
I don't see them going back to the playoffs either. I don't see them kind of being the classes division like they were last year, just because they're still so young. And I get that. Like, Acuna's a superstar. And adding Ozuna kind of helps offset the loss of Josh Donaldson. But, again, I look at their pitching staff. I'm with Brooksy here. I like Soroka, but you're asking him to do a lot. And I just don't know if he's able to do that much right now. It'd be nice if they had another arm. And I know they signed Cole Hamels, but the bottom line is I don't think Cole Hamels is a frontline starter anymore. So unless they add something before the deadline, an ace-type pitcher, then I don't see them. I don't see them kind of making noise. Now they have the talent to make some noise. When you talk about Freddie Freeman, Ozzy Albies, and Ronald Acuna Jr., but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding for them because you're talking about the NL East here. It's stacked.
Yeah. I mean, just to kind of add on to that a little bit, I mean, we can touch on the Phillies. I mean, because I don't think you can really forget about the Phillies either in this conversation. I mean, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Jean Segura, Didi Gregorius, McCutchen if he's healthy. But again, is this a team? I feel like they're another team where it's going to depend on a lot on what their pitching can do. I mean, they have a starting rotation of Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Arrieta, Zach Eflin, and Vince Velasquez. I mean, is that going to be enough to allow them to compete in the NL East, which is, like we've said multiple times on this episode already, is that going to allow them to compete?
Yeah, I think that may live and die in terms, like, I like the Phillies and their like chance to take a step forward, especially with Girardi as opposed to Gabe Kapler.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Zach Wheeler holds the key in whether they're here or they're here. Like if he comes out and plays like what he was paid for and what he's shown in flashes, then wow, like that's a great second starter to have before Nola. But if he comes out and struggles, that's going to be really tough to recover from.
Yeah, and he is a notorious slow starter when it comes to the season. So they need him to absolutely figure it out and figure it out fast instead of them going into the end of season finishing strong, But yeah, looking at this team, looking at this lineup, I actually think that they do it this year. And the base reason is Joe Girardi, a guy who's been there, done that. He's a guy that can command a room. He's a guy that veterans and young guys can respond to because of his demeanor and things like that. To me, he's the reason why I think, and I'm going to say it now, I think the Phillies win this division. I like what they have. I like them adding Wheeler with Nola. Arrieta, he got to kind of step up, but
is he still Arrieta? Sorry to interrupt you, but Jake Arrieta has this kind of like essence around him ever since the Cubs won the World Series. But is Arrieta still like a top of the line kind of pitcher guy?
I don't think he is. I actually thought that ever since that year, he's actually never really kind of been prominent, just been a name. And he had one of the greatest half seasons ever. I'm not taking that away from him. But after that, he didn't really show up. And they need him to show up if the Phillies are going to, win this division. But seeing what they have, not just him. When you talk about Rhys Hoskins, JT Realmuto, best catcher in baseball, Gene Segura, and to add a Didi Gregorius to that infield already, I don't see why they don't win this division.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be. I mean, I feel like year in and year out, this division is tough. I think it's going to be a 4-team race. Should be interesting. I mean, the 5th team is the Marlins. We all know they're not going to do anything. So
that's my analysis. They stink.
They stink. That's all you need to really say about the Marlins. They're still in kind of I don't even know what to call it. But yeah, NL East is going to be a fun division to watch. Like most years. We'll see what happens and see how it comes out on top. I'd like to see Bryce Harper be successful, get into the playoffs, get a ring. We'll see. But Phillies, we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the AL East. Guys, is this a 2-team race, 3-team race, 1-team race? Do the Yankees just walk away with this division easily this year? As much as I hate to say it, do they walk away with this division easily?
They definitely should. I mean, it's all the makes of it, you would think. I mean, I think if anything, it's a 1.5-team race. Like if either the Rays or the Boston just highly plays above my expectations of them, then they could do it. But I just feel like the Yankees are just going to walk away with it. They definitely should.
Yeah, and we talked about them briefly about them already having injuries, but it's their division to lose. It always will be their division to lose, but especially this year, that rings true just because they added Garrett Cole, who was a surprise pitching free agent, adding him with that big contract, that 9-year, $324 million contract. Last year, again, talk about teams I was bullish on. The Rays were one of them. And man, oh man, they proved me right. But it's going to be tough this year. They lost Tommy Pham. So we'll see how they respond. But yeah, if I were to pick anybody to compete with them, it would definitely be the Rays. Sorry, Mac. I just don't see yourself doing a lot this year. I see 500 for them.
I think the Sox are going to have to definitely sneak up on some people this year. With Chris Sale kind of up in the air still, I don't know how that kind of works out. Losing Mookie Betts, that's a big bat in the lineup. But they still have J.D. Martinez. They still got Andrew Benintendi, Xander Bogaerts. I think Devers is going to have to have a big year for the Sox to be successful this year. So if that happens, I don't know. I think he's kind of been inconsistent so far through his career. But he's gonna have like a career year this year for them to kind of, I feel like, do any damage. I think the Rays should be another interesting team to watch. As always, I'm kind of intrigued to see what Blake Snell does this year. And I'm also intrigued to see what Blackhawk alum Whitfield Proud Brandon McKay does in his first full season in the MLB after contributing pretty big last year. But the one team that I'm really intrigued to see this year, I don't know how much they're going to do, what's going to happen, but the Blue Jays. They have some of the youngest talent in the league, some of the best young talent in the league with Vladdy Guerrero Jr. They got BGO's son over there, a couple other guys. I mean, Dre, I know you're high on the Blue Jays after talking to last year. I mean, are you kind of excited to see this young squad?
Oh, believe me, that might be one of the teams I'm most excited to watch. You kind of saw the writing on the wall last year. We talked about it a lot. Just waiting, the anticipation of seeing these guys come, starting with Vlad Guerrero Jr. But man, he's here. He's here in a big way. You saw the show he put on in the Derby, and even then, regular season, he was awesome. So this year's his first full year. But the thing is, with a young kid, this is kind of, the second season is kind of like, all right, they know you. The book is out on you. What's going to happen? They're going to figure out your tendencies because they're a guy that they know you can kill him in a game, and that's what he does because he's a monster. So it's gonna be fun to watch. Him, Bo Bichette's another guy that's really fun. So, but I'm very curious. I'll be watching this team very close from afar.
Brooksy, what's the most intriguing thing you're looking from this division this year? I mean, it's kind of full of storylines from top to bottom. But is it as easy as the Yankees just walking away with it, or do you think someone could sneak up on it?
I mean, I think that there is hype so much more than just the division for the Yankees. So, I mean, I think if any team, it would be great to see like the Rays just competing with the Yankees even into like September. Or Boston, because somehow Boston once again gets to put on their underdog cape to New York. I mean, I just think like looking how for everybody else it's an AL East race, but for the Yankees it's the pennant, it's the World Series. It's so much more than that. And seeing how the two different pressures apply to each of them. I mean, I think if the Rays could do it, that would be really exciting to watch them go toe-to-toe.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's kind of a World Series or bust type of season for the Yankees, which I think it should be with the lineup they have. Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, a couple of the other guys. I mean, adding Garrett Cole obviously is huge. But, this may be just the Red Sox fan inside of me, but I hope someone takes down the evil empire. I hope somehow something happens, they don't make the playoffs. I doubt that happens, but it's always fun to see Yankees fans struggle.
Here's a question for you, Greg.
In
the AL wild card, somehow you have the Astros versus the Yankees. Who do you want to win?
The Astros 100%.
Okay. True Red Sox fan. True Red Sox fan.
100%. I would rather see the cheating Astros make it into the second round of the playoffs than the Yankees.
Not me. I can't. I just can't. I want 1 year of misery, to be honest. But yeah, I'm with you, Mac. Like, I don't want to see them win. It's just gonna be so hard for them to kind of lose just looking at their team.
I mean, it's like with the roster they have, like, how can you not have they have the expectations they have for a certain reason, and I understand that and I respect that but it would be 10 times better if they just had this roster and then they go out and lose.
That's why they're not called the Mets, and they're called the – even though the Yankees haven't won in over 10 years. But, yeah, it's –
They just have this aura around them where, it's like, okay, yeah, we're the Yankees. We're going to go out and win games, and it's going to be easy. With this roster, it should make it 10 times easier. But, they've already gone through these injuries with Judge and Stanton, who are both rumored to possibly be missing opening day. They got James Paxton out for the first month of the season, I believe. Severino's probably going to be out for the entire season. These injuries just pile up, and you can only avoid the injuries for so long. I mean, last year they had a MLB record of like 30 guys on the DL throughout the course of the season, and they still won 103 games, which is crazy to think. Like, think if they were fully healthy throughout the season, they could have won what? Probably 115, 120 games. Like, would have that been realistic if they were fully healthy throughout the course of the season?
I mean, you're talking about a third of the season.
Yeah.
That's tough. There was at one time to a group of friends where I told them that the Nationals were going to win a third of the season. It was when they signed Scherzer.
Yeah.
That team, because they had Harper at the time as well. But I don't think it's out of the question that they don't. I don't think it's impossible that they can't win. 110, 115. 120 is wild.
Yeah.
But I guess if there's any team I'm gonna pick in the NL or the Major League Baseball actually to do it, it would be them.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm just hoping the Sox pull it off somehow. I mean, that's just the fan. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously we have that fifth team in the Orioles. They're kind of like the Marlins we talked about earlier. They're probably not going to do much.
Their
But
future looks a lot brighter.
huh?
Their future looks a lot brighter
Yeah.
than it does
Mhm.
than it did this time last year.
Yeah. I mean, they got a couple prospects. They got the catcher last year. What was his name, Dre?
Adley Rutschman,
Rutschman.
knocked him out of Oregon State, first overall pick.
Yes.
He's going to be really good.
So they got a bright future ahead of them with a couple prospects, just like the Blue Jays. I mean, it just seems like this is one of those years where it's kind of like sometimes it's a 4-team race in the AL East. I mean, somehow the Blue Jays or the Orioles kind of find a way to compete, and maybe the Rays are having the down year, or the Sox are having the down year. But it seems like this year it's like a 1 or 2 team race. So it's definitely I don't think the AL East is at the top of its game that it normally is. So it definitely should be interesting to kind of see how it goes and how it plays out over the course of the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you guys want to add on the AL East?
Just that the Rays and the Red Sox are definitely, obviously the Yankees also, but that division has 3 of the top 6, 7 teams in the AL. So which 3 of that do make the wild card? Do both the Red Sox and the Rays do neither? I think this is a division that should get 2 teams in the playoffs per year. It's the AFC North of baseball.
It's always the class, and as much as I'm not on the Red Sox this year, they do have some talent. Just because they lost Mookie doesn't mean that you got to forget the rest of their team.
Mm-hmm.
Mac touched on Rafael Devers, who I think could be a legitimate home MVP candidate, especially if they find their way into the playoffs, because I think he's going to be counted on as the anchor. Last year, he was really good, batted over 300, was in the batting champion race for quite some time. But this year, I expect him to take a bigger step forward. Now, similar to Vlad Guerrero Jr., the book is now out on him, so it's a matter of how does he respond. But that left field porch is very short, so all you really need is a pop up, and it's just going to go over. So, I'm curious to see though with how they respond, knowing that they lost a guy like Mookie Betts, and I think they have the talent to do so. But I also know it's going to be tough.
It definitely depends on kind of how the pitching staff responds the most, I think. I mean, when you lose a guy, possibly you lose a guy, I should say, because we're not sure exactly what's going on with Chris Sale. But when you lose a guy like Chris Sale and then a veteran like David Price is gone, and then Rick Porcello is also gone, I mean, those are your top 3 guys right there. So it's going to be interesting to see how guys like Eddie Rodriguez, Nathan Eovaldi, after his contribution to the World Series ring and then kind of being out for most of last year with injuries, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how those guys step up this year and perform. And if they can get a solid performances out of their pitching staff this year, I feel like they have a type of offense that could carry them, but it's up in the air right now. I'm not sure how it's going to go. It might be a lost year for the Sox, but Who knows? That's hard to admit. Really, it hurt saying that.
Yeah, you're in better shape than my bucket is.
We'll get to them. We'll get to them.
That's painful even to think about that conversation.
Right. But that is all the time we have for today, guys. So thanks for joining us for another episode of Heart of the Order 2.0. As we head into the 2020 MLB season, we gave our AL East and NL East previews this week. Next week, we'll do the AL West and the NL West. Talk a little bit more about the cheating Houston Astros, see what the Dodgers got on their plate for this year, the Diamondbacks, see if the Athletics can pull off another surprise season this year. But thanks for joining us again, guys.
Salute.